So it's been quite a year. For some of us, we can say it's been a year of celebration. For others of us, we can say it's been an exhausting year. I think many of us may even say they feel stuck. Stuck, I think, on being certain. And if I'm honest, I think all of us may even fall into that category. The idea that we have to be right all the time. Liberal, conservative, woke or traditional, pro-government, small government, pro-constitution, originalist. We all have moved so far into the space of must be right that we've forgotten how to be curious. We'd rather win an argument than understand each other. We'd rather be certain than wise. And here's what's fascinating. The more certain we become, the more divided we end up being. The more right we insist on being, the more wrong everything feels. Today I suggest this evening, this Erev Rosh Hashanah, that we live in a paradox. Now, understanding that may in fact be the key to how to address where we are going. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs taught about the Hebrew word mashber. For those of you who don't realize, it means crisis, but it also means a childbirth chair. And of course, for those of you who have given birth or are about to give birth, that moment can feel like a crisis. There's a lot of action happening, can be slightly chaotic, and a lot of pain involved, I remember. But I also know that out of that chaos, something new was born. When we think about it, a woman's labor, it's not a crisis, it's not chaos, rather it's a transformation. The pain isn't meaningless suffering, it's simply part of the process of bringing new life into this world. After so much of us going down into Egypt, and we were numerous and multiplied, we understood further what this verse in the Torah teaches. But the more they were oppressed, the more they increased, and the more they spread. It talks about our ancestors going, growing, and finally things got bad. And they became stronger. And every new tragedy begot creativity. When we look around during our polarized time, I realize for some, maybe they have a feeling that it is a mashber, a chaotic crisis moment, the end of the story, but maybe it's labor pains. What if something new is trying to be born? But we keep running away from that discomfort. We don't want to feel the pain, rather we hide and pretend that pain just isn't there. Rabbi Delphine Horvel of Paris spoke of resilience and talking about all of the things that the French Jewish community have undergone. She said, quote, "Resilience only comes from acknowledging that what is broken won't be repaired. It's always about knowing how you are going to bring together the shattered pieces of your life to create a stronger story for times of despair." A wonderful word in modern Hebrew, she points out, is crisis, mashber. Again, for her, she understood that things were broken, but that it was also a time to put those broken pieces back into something new. That brokenness may have been full of a time of anger, of pain, of doubt, but it became something different. So what do we do with this pain? How do we respond to it? How do we engage in it? And what does right have to do with it? Brene Brown, a teacher who recently published a book, The Tenacity of Paradox, has spent years studying this challenging concept. And here's what she discovered. Humans get so uncomfortable straddling tensions and uncertainty that surfaces when two seemingly opposite ideas are both valid, that we simply give up. We let go of the tension, we pick one, normally the most familiar, and make ourselves feel better by discounting or diminishing that competing idea. Sound familiar? We focus on one. We focus on the idea that we are most comfortable with, and we ignore everything else. We push all of that toward the other, forcing us to become even further polarized. Instead of holding on to tension, saying many different views have a reason, many different points of view can in fact be valid, we pick a side and then we other. It's more comfortable. It's easier. Let me give you an example from not talking about society, but I remember as a child, I was so certain about something that I ended up having a fight with my sister. It turned out, by the way, I was wrong, she was right, and we made up in the end. But really, what it came down to was we all have blind spots. I didn't realize what I didn't see. And because I was so adamant, I had to have a fight with my sister. Think about parenting from a different perspective. We have to set firm boundaries. Otherwise, our children will run us over and will do all the things that they want to do without regards to anything. And worse, they'll never grow and mature. The tension between certainty and flexibility, though, of both the child's wisdom and the parent's wisdom is that both need to be taken into account. We actually have to consider that there needs to be some flexibility around certainty, or consider how vulnerability actually increases people's confidence around you. As Dr. Amy Flowers shared recently in a Kiddush club, how President Kennedy said that he made a mistake at the Bay of Pigs, that he wasn't certain. And in fact, in regards to that moment, people admired him even more. Today, I cannot imagine leaders apologizing, acknowledging their own humanity, or more importantly, acknowledging their limitations. Rather, we are stuck othering one another because we are stuck in our certainties. Brene Brown discovered the gift of paradox is that if we hang in there and tolerate the tension, grounding down and holding on to ideas, a new, deeper level of understanding is born. Paradox is stubborn, it doesn't let go, yet we are the ones who tap out. We are living in the ultimate paradox, a time when we desperately want certainty, but certainty is actually making us weaker. It is making us more divided. The strength of healing we need requires living in that uncertainty. Again, as you've gathered, I think we might be in an inflection point where we moved so far into the must be right space that it's in fact hurting who we are as individuals, as a community, and even more largely. It's challenging our relationships. And what if, instead of being so certain, we had the courage to step into the great unknown? Brown talks about splitting the ambivalence. When two people are polarized around a decision, that one person will take on part of certainty and the other will take on uncertainty. In truth, the situation is much more complicated. We're doing this, though, on a national scale. Each side taking and acting as if they are 100% certain, so that nobody has to sit with the unsightly, messy, uncomfortable truth that most issues are complex. Complexity isn't the enemy of today. Oversimplification is our true enemy. And it's courage that is needed to not to be more right, but to be more curious. It's courage to say, I might be wrong. It is courage to say, help me understand. It is courage to ask, what am I missing? Curiosity about how we embody our values is imperative. And it takes courage to get us to the place of being curious and maintaining that curiosity. But it doesn't ask us to surrender the values that we hold most dear. The value of pikuach nefesh, of saving a life, the value of treating everybody b'tselem Elohim as if they are created in the image of God, the value of truthfulness, of emet, of tzedek, of justice. Instead, it challenges us that instead of allowing ourselves to go down the rabbit hole of 60-second videos again and again, scrolling, cutting out context, cutting out nuance, cutting out our ability to engage in deep thought, that we in fact need to once again return to who we were in our roots, return to the moment where we were wrestling deeply with challenging ideas, not knowing, but simply curious. Doubting is fine too. Complexity doesn't mean that we just have moral confusion. It means that we refuse to continue to be lazy while maintaining our moral clarity. Curiosity doesn't require that we tolerate hate, anti-Semitism, or racism, or terrorism. Rather, it says and calls us to act wisely, to be effective in our choices, to maintain us by living our values out. It reminds me of Jacob, our forefather, who wrestled at the river of Jabbok. Our commentators love to point out that it was a river that is named after him, the Onomatopoeia, meaning that he may have in fact been wrestling with some mysterious adversary at a river of his own name. There may have been nobody else there but his own thoughts, his own feelings. And at that moment when he was deeply wrestling and deep in doubt, fearful of what was going to happen with Esau, fearful of what was going to happen with, with his wives, fearful of what was going to become of him, he looked at the angel in wrestling and said, I will not let you go until you bless me. I am not going to escape from this entanglement with you, this deep wrestling moment with my inner being, unless I get something out of it. He couldn't stop. He had to wrestle into the discomfort. And he didn't win. In fact, he came out wiser, but changed. After that night, he walked forever with a limp, and he received a new identity. From Jacob, it became Israel. The model, I think, from him, from that wrestling moment, is it's not that I'm right and you're wrong, end of discussion. Rather, it's I will wrestle with this complexity until something new is born. I will sit in the discomfort while I wrestle deep, deep inside. And now, of course, I can hear some of you saying to me in the social hall, Rabbi, there are times when we must be certain, when justice is at stake, when human dignity is threatened, when evil must be named. And you're absolutely right. The paradox isn't, again, that we're going to abandon our moral clarity, but that we must hold firm in our convictions while remaining curious. How we must live an embodied version of our values. How we need to engage fully, not just on a superficial level, but deeply. How we need to wrestle. How we need to think of ourselves, if Jacob and that image of the angel at the river of Jabbok doesn't speak to your heart, maybe the image of Moses, one of our most certain leaders, the leader who we looked up to the most, had Jethro to show him a better way of organizing the community. He didn't know everything, and he didn't pretend to. We can be certain of our values while still being curious of other ideas. The question isn't whether we fight, again, for injustice, but how do we do it in ways that actually create change, rather than just expressing our righteousness. This brings me to the Hebrew word crucial for our time, divarim, which means both word and thing. In Hebrew, we understand things have multiple meanings because that's just how the language is built. But it also teaches us something profound, that what we say becomes things, that what we say turns into things, that our words actually do matter. Social media, by the way, is a space where people love to just say words as if they are throwaway items, as if they don't matter. But the truth is, social media functions in a weird way with those words. The more catastrophic the word, the more controversial the thing, the more bang in that image, the more the algorithm rewards that polarizing post. The more the algorithm pushes out that angry comment, that extreme position. And then all of those sudden, those words which were thrown away, those words which we pushed out there without thinking, become something. Those divarim become divarim. They become actions that somebody takes, becoming a reality. When we speak into social media with certainty and anger, we're not simply expressing an opinion, we're creating the world which we are now embodying and living. Our words become our policies. And the paradox of divarim reminds us that words can destroy, that social media can divide, that our speech can make things worse. On the flip side, the or social media can create, or it can connect, or it can in fact make things better. But here's the fascinating thing, like I mentioned, the technology that spread like wildfire, connecting all of us with all of the social media companies, amplifies the best and worst of us. Those platforms can in fact spread curiosity, they can spread compassion, they can spread moments where we actually take the time to dig in and learn something deeply because we've wrestled with it, because we've thought about it, because we've engaged in it. What if this year we impact just our own algorithms a little bit? What kind of a world am I creating with these words? Maybe that's the question we ask before we hit post. What kind of thing will these divarim actually become before I hit send? I think of individuals who've told me that they found themselves scrolling and finding themselves to become angrier and angrier and angrier the more they scrolled. Again, I challenge us to play with our own algorithms and ask, what kind of a world are we creating and perpetuating? I ask that we take a moment to look around you and know that there is certainly somebody in this space who disagrees with you. Not all of us agree. In fact, I was sitting at the Oneg table with a congregant on Friday night having a loving disagreement. And yet, that's not what I took away from that moment. What I took away was we had one small disagreement and all of these other things that we still shared in common. It's not weakness to focus and have some disagreements. It's strength. As we begin this year, we have a choice. We can stay in the comfort of being right, or we can embrace the discomfort of transformation. Our minds want to resolve such issues quickly, so we tap out before solving the problem. If you can hold on to the conflict long enough, something innovative might even emerge. The mush-bear moment, the crisis that feels like labor pains, is asking us a question, actually many questions. Can you live within the space of not knowing what's coming next? Are you going to be able to be curious over certainty? Can you see the divine image in others even if you disagree with them? Can you speak divarim, to create rather than to cry? Jacob's wrestling teaches us that transformation happens in that struggle. But how do we actually wrestle with the complexity of our daily lives? How do we stay in the ring when everything inside of us wants to tap out and say, I'm done, I know I'm right and you're wrong, and that's it? Jewish tradition has been practical. It's one of the things I most admire of our faith. We don't study wisdom, we live it. So let me out for you 3 questions to help us embrace the wrestling life that I'd love for us to engage in. Before we post again, let's focus on what we're asking of those very words. When someone disagrees with me, what might they see that I don't? And when I'm the most certain, what am I so afraid of losing if I'm wrong? I'm asking you to ask questions before you post because I'm begging all of us, myself included, to slow down, even though I truthfully don't post all that much. But I do want us to slow down. I want us to wrestle. Jewish history teaches us that our greatest creativity comes after our most significant challenges, that every tragedy begats creativity. From the destruction of the temple came the literature and rabbinic Judaism, the Judaism we practice today. From persecution came poetry and prayer in response to trauma, as opposed to retribution. From our worst tragedy, the Holocaust, came the rebirth of the state of Israel. What if our current division is the labor pains of something unprecedented? Can we allow ourselves the space and the grace to hold that complexity? Can we remember that democracy thrives on disagreements, where everyone is honored? Communities that grow stronger through difference rather than sameness are things that really stand out in history. But only if we don't tap out. Only if we stay in the wrestling match until dawn. Only if we choose the great unknown over false comfort of being right. Even if that discomfort means that we will be changed the way Jacob was changed. Something new can be born. But first, we have to pick up the courage to live in a paradox. What I'm asking you here, as I close, is not that you become less passionate, but that you become more curious. Not that you stop caring about truth, but that you start caring about relationships. Not that you avoid the wrestling match, but that you stay in it long enough for something new to emerge. May this year bring us a year of strength to wrestle with complexity, the wisdom to speak words that heal, and the faith that something beautiful is trying to be born if we have the courage not to run away from the labor pains. Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova. That was my brain had, as used to say, Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova.